place. And I do have second reading. Cleaning up.
Already?
I do have them ready here. This is, when we get out of first reading, I do have second reading. Your Bible says, therefore, I exhort the elders among you, as your fellow elder and witness of the suffering of Christ, and a partaker also of the glory that is to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God amongst you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but voluntarily according to the will of God, and not for sordid gain, but with eagerness, nor yet as lordliness over those allowed to your charge, but proven to be examples of the flock. That's pretty much where we stopped at before everything took its course last week. Okay. But the bottom line is Peter is now, and Peter understands that he is an elder. He understands his responsibilities. We also know he's an apostle because he speaks of the angle of a witness. And so then he brings to our attention what God would want as an elder to do so that they would understand it as well. He says that they are to do what? Exercise oversight, not under compulsion, but voluntarily. The thought would then come into play as, can the preacher then appoint an elder?
They can recommend.
Okay.
Recommend or why not appoint them?
Right.
Because the congregation has to appoint them.
You got it. So, since the congregation is the one that declares who they want, now the other side of this is, can we go out into the audience and say we think that Brother so-and-so would be a good elder, and then ask Brother so-and-so to be our elder?
No.
Why?
If you read in Acts chapter, they have to be holy men.
Well, this brother's holy, because that's why the congregation went to go talk to him. You got it. Keep going, but you're getting there.
Okay. Acts chapter 1, verse 8, I believe it is. I don't have it. It says, "What shall receive power after that we must come upon you?" But in that scripture where it says, choose 7 men.
That's 6.
Acts chapter 6. Verse 1. In the days when the number of the disciples multiplied, there arose among murmuring the Grecians against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily administration. Then the 12 called multitudes of the disciples unto them and said, it is not reason that we should leave the word of God and serve tables.
Okay.
Wherefore, brethren, look out ye among you 7 men honest of report, full of the Holy Ghost and wisdom, whom we may appoint over this business.
Okay.
So it's talking about choosing not only holy men, but those who were of honest report. He told them to choose 7 men among you,
Okay.
within the flock.
Okay, so he told them they can go choose, but the question was, can we go and say who we want to be as elders?
No.
Why? You're right.
Because they have to be above reproach, yes. Let me get my words right so I can.
Well, no, you don't even have to do it. Something very simple that they have to.
They have to be proven.
Well, we know that, but there's something else from that individual. Because I said, can we go out and just say, I want you to.
But they got to be recommended by the
We can
minister.
recommend, but there's still something else from that person. And I agree with you 100%. We can even recommend, but there's something else with that individual.
They have to be apt to teach.
Okay, these are some of the qualifications that you said they have to be. But something that they have to do. slip and said it.
They have
To
to.
do what?
They gotta be able to.
They have to.
Who is you?
I have no idea, man.
They have to what?
They have to be able to shepherd. No,
You are
we're on-
giving me.
we're not on the
You
right
keep
track.
giving me what they are to do, but there's something more important that they have to do. Something much more important. Very important. Remember, you selected them. Something now that they have to do.
Isn't in that sixth verse?
Well, it's not necessarily there because it's in your Timothy, 3rd chapter, but it's there. Something they have to do. Verse 73. Verse 73, something that they have to do.
I know they gotta be one
Read it.
wife, and they gotta be able to preach and teach.
No, just read it. I
First
don't
Timothy
think
2
you-
saying if a man desires a
What?
If a man
So they have to do what?
desires.
Desire. Right. It's so simple that I don't care if you did select them. If they don't want the office,
Right.
then duh.
That was a little too obvious.
I told you it's so simple, and you all kept running past it. But it is they have to desire the office.
Right.
Now, if they have to desire the office, he says they're not to do what exercise oversight. I don't know what yours say in verse 5:2. What does yours say in 5:2?
Here. Feed the flock of God which is among you. Take the oversight thereof, not by constraint.
So now I want you to take the oversight of those, not by constraint, right?
Right.
So what do you mean, not by constraint?
Not forceful.
Right, so now they're to do what? You desire, so you're going to tell them what to do.
No.
No, because now you are forcing them, you're making them do something. But that overseer or that elder is to do what? He's to do what? He's to reach out to them, right?
Right.
He says, and so watch it, he's to never tell them what to do, but watch this. This oversight, this elder then is doing what? He is, first of all, something that he does. You said he has to have a desire. Then he volunteers. So he's volunteering what's going on. We're in we don't have First Peter 5. So then he desires the ministry. He
Right.
desires the position.
Right.
So he's got to want it. Then when he wants it, then he's got to do what? Then 3 says he's not to do what?
Lord over.
Now he can't lord over God's church. So now that he's in it, now that he's been given, now that he's been given a responsibility, he is not to lord over the church. So he doesn't come in with his rigid rules and regulations on what you are to do and then make it law. He is not to do that. He is to now make sure that as a shepherd, that's why the church is going to select him as a shepherd, because they feel that they can respect him, that they can go to him, that that he's been or has proven that he's trustworthy, that also if something comes up, can I actually go to this individual? Can I now share my thoughts, get a biblical answer behind what I'm bringing, what I've brought before him? Can I do that? So these things are the things that are very important in an elder. So he is not the Lord. That means he's not to do what? To be no, he's the, he don't run around here like he's the top dog. He's the one that, if anything, he's not the top dog, he's the Lord. Because now he is to receive those that really they're counting on him. You use the 6th chapter of Acts to get a better understanding of what this man is. He is to serve. So he is to serve the people. Not to control and tell the people. He is to serve the people. But can he discipline the people as well?
Yes.
Yes, he can discipline the people. But I've always said, how can you be an elder when no one wants to follow? Right? Yeah, as an elder, you got to have followers. So in this case, if he's an elder, then he's looking for those that will follow his how he's doing what he's asking of them to do. So he's not lording, he's asking. But then he also mentioned something else, that elder should not be wanted, why he should be not wanting. I mean, his reason for wanting to do it had better not be, look at your text, had not be in verse 2, had not be for what?
Gain.
For gain. So now he's not taking the ministry to do what? So that he can get paid. Right, so that he can get profit by it. Then he's missed the mark again and taking, well, I'll do this if you will pay me. We've got this going on right now, believe it or not, with some of our song leaders in the church today. I will do this if you will
Hey,
pay me. And if you say there's no pay behind it,
thank you, but no thank you.
then they disappear. I said, and I'll never forget it, there was one particular person that I thought sounded very nice, and we were at some kind of event where it was like a concert. And I remember going up to the brother who was the lead, who I knew a little bit about. And when I went up to ask him, I said, man, I'd love for you to come over to Westchester and give some songs or two. I said, so when can I get you to come by? He said, let me check with my manager, and then we'll get back to you.
Wow.
Manager.
You got it. Then we'll get back to you. I said, why don't we do one better than that? It's okay. You don't have to come. You can go ahead and stay. It's okay. Why? Because now what you're telling me is you'll come if I'll pay. And here's what bothers me. If I pay, then you know what that says if I pay? Then I have a right to say to you whether or not that song is right, whether or not I like that song, whether or not I want that song.
These are the songs I want you to sing.
What'd you say, Steve?
These are the songs I want you to sing.
In the way that I want you to sing.
Right. So if I'm paying for my services, then here's what I want you to do with my pay.
Yep.
Well, but you don't have to come in and tell me what you're gonna sing. I can actually tell you what I want you to sing.
Yep.
Because I'm paying you for the services.
Based on my sermon, I want you to sing these songs.
You got it. And watch this. So now that person has gotten up, and here's where the church gets clouded. They're singing spiritual songs. But how spiritual are they when they're built around being paid?
Well, good about being paid this because
But you see what I'm saying?
it becomes entertainment now.
You got it. What you say? Now it's entertainment. And this is what's going on in the churches. You've got brothers that getting up to sing, and as far as the congregation is concerned, a lot of them are not aware that the man is being paid. They're saying, boy, it's a beautiful, he's doing a fantastic job. Well, he said, I got to because I'm being paid. So does it really affect his spiritual side? I would think so, because now he's got a question mark. Am I there to give God praises? Yes, I'm there to give God praises. But if I don't get paid,
Am I there?
am I there to give God praises?
But it goes back to the giving. Not
Well,
out of
okay.
necessity.
Right.
Not out of compulsion. I mean,
Right.
you give. What is your motive behind it?
Right. And do I got to give because they told me I had to give. Then that's under compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
Then that means it's making you give. God, whether you keep that in your pocket.
Right.
I've made the statement, we don't understand it. And why we don't understand it? Because what's going on is We are in the last days. And man is saying, what do I need to do to motivate people to come to worship, to come to Bible studies? What do I need to do to motivate them? And so what man says, I will come up with something to motivate them. And in the process of coming up with something to motivate them, does it line itself up with God's will? Yes.
Well, like I said, you listen to these commercials, man, how they advertise these particular churches.
Yes.
The most explosive.
Yes, listen.
And stuff like that, you know, and what's her name? It's
I know you're talking about.
our sister that, you know, they get on TV and everything, man. But the way I'm listening, I'm like, they make it sound like it's some kind of circus act.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, you know, if you really want to have a good time,
There you go.
come to this church. It's
Yeah,
not like go to God's church.
Isn't that something?
You know, not go to a Bible teaching church,
Right, right.
but go to this church that you will get a worship experience out of this world.
You got it. And it's advertised like that too.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
And so
It's tempting for somebody who's ignorant.
you got it. So I'm gonna go over there because man, I heard they be doing their thing over there. I heard the music be blasting over there. So I'm gonna go over there. Really? And watch this. And what's wrong with it? That's in their minds. And really, what's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with me going to this place. Why do you make it sound like because they have musical instruments, like it's something wrong? Because they're looking for what he's talking about in this elder. He says, I'll be your elder if I get paid. Or I'll be your elder because I heard they get paid. So this will be another supplementary income that will come my way. So now I get another supplementary income to go with. So yes, I'll do it. I remember Shardae's sister telling me about her sister's husband, how he goes from church to church to play the organ. And so why? Because that's a great time for him to go because she says, and he's busy all Sunday because he's going from one church to the other. That's far. First of all, I said he must be a very good organist. But that's first of all. But secondly, so you're paying him. So here's someone that's not even a part of your congregation, but yet at the same time, he's over here doing something. Don't you understand? It doesn't matter. All he's saying is, let me play very good. Because in the end, there's a payday behind it.
And I can keep on.
And I'm going to come again because there's a payday behind it.
Not only that, he's a people pleaser.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if you don't give what the people want to hear, like there's a lot of people say, well, I have song requests.
Right.
You don't sing this type of song, or you don't sing this song here, you're not doing what you have been asked to do as far as getting paid. So they come in with their songs, they even come in with this is my song leader. You know, you have the gospel music they come around, and the preacher brings his song leader.
Yeah, you see that.
And nobody else can sing.
Have you seen
But
that?
him. And so therefore he's leading the whole congregation gospel meeting for 5 days by himself, and nobody else lead the song because he's getting paid.
Right.
If you bring somebody else to lead songs, he's not getting paid. He won't have no part of that.
He got to share the wealth, man.
Yeah.
So then what we got going on then is, pull your paper. I just want you to see this. I'm at, I flipped it over just one. I've got the great tragedy in this. Many have been called by God into the ministry, called to feed his flock, but they refuse. Here's some of the reasons why they refuse. Some feel they're not worthy, some are inadequate. Some feel it would cost them way too much. Some feel that it requires too much sacrifice. Some feel that they don't want to bear the reproach of the ministry, and some feel the demand and duties and expectations were way too much to bear. On and on the list could go. But the scriptures is clear. If we have been called into the ministry in the ministry by God, we must not reject His will. We must not have to be constrained and coerced to do God's will. And so here's another one. You're going over and you're saying, brother, I think you would be great as an elder. And you continue to go to that brother and you continue to coerce that brother. I think you would be a great elder. Something's wrong with that picture, guys. You shouldn't have to go and coerce that person. I think you just be good for the eldership. That person says, well, you know what, let me think about it. Something's wrong with that picture. He doesn't have a desire. It could be some of those reasons. But the bottom line is, look what you're getting as an elder. You're getting someone that didn't want to be an elder. But you kept coercing that person. Well, that person said, you got a point. Maybe I need to take this on. Then that person starts to look, and they're not looking at it properly, because either they're looking at it from a negative standpoint, oh Lord, that's this, and oh, that's that, or they're looking at it from another standpoint. Let's see, I could be God's man, I could be doing His will, and I could be somebody in the church. Then you're looking at it again wrong. Or how do I am to look at it? Let's see. I also know if I become an elder, then I can also get paid. Then you're still looking at it wrong. So then, watch this. What are you saying? That's that person that you've coerced into it. But as someone that has a desire for leadership, someone that has a desire to take on an elder, deacon, or whatever it is in the church, they then need to present themselves. They come to that minister and make it known, I like to do this. I like to do that. Now that means you volunteered. You're saying, I just want to serve the Lord. That's what you're saying. I really just want to serve the Lord. That's the man that God is looking for. That one that comes to you and says, hey, I desire to take on this ministry. Why is that so important? Because now you've got someone that truly understands what it means to be an elder or to be a deacon. Because now they understand that it is something that I volunteered to do. But in my volunteering, then guess what? Probably won't surface pay. Probably won't surface pay. As a matter of fact, it would now, the church says, but I think we should pay him something, gas or something, but I think we should pay him. Now, anything that's given to him is a plus, because his expectations weren't to take anything. His expectations were to give, to help the church grow. Now you got somebody that truly loves the people of God. So they're not going to do the people any harm, because they're not looking for this great motivation. And money's a pretty good motivator. They're not looking for this great motivator to help them to make decisions. So then that's why he speaks of Sargis gain. So that shouldn't be there. He speaks of now lording over the church, right? Mm-hmm. And 5, he says, and they shouldn't be lording over the church. I wonder why they should not be lording over the church. But look at verse 4. This is why they should not be lording over the church. Verse 4 says what?
And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory.
So why should they not be lording over the church?
Because they're not the chief shepherd.
Makes sense to me. Because they're not the chief shepherd. So then what are they? They are shepherds. Right. And if they are shepherds, then he just mentioned there's a hierarchy that's over them. That chief shepherd, which is Christ. So then if that's the case, and Christ is the chief shepherd, then whose flock really is it? flock is it? You said, well, I'm the shepherd over the people. But whose flock really is it? It's the chief shepherd's flock. So then what he's doing is then allowing you to work in his kingdom. Yes.
Like the word stewardship or steward,
Yes.
managing something you don't own.
Yes, okay. And what did you say? Managing something you don't own. You do it to the best of your ability. Watch, because that's that owner believes that you can do this. In this case, God believes or knows that you can do this. He's called you to take on this great work. He's asked you now to take it. You can renege or bail out or don't want to do it, but God has called you. And now you're going to have to answer to God why you said, nope, I don't want to do this. Instead of investigating yourself. You know what he said, something about examine yourself? So if you were to examine yourself and ask yourself, why is it that I won't take on such a great responsibility? Why are you examining yourself? Because you know you've been called. Why are you examining yourself? Because now you're trying to line yourself up with God. God's will shall be done. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. His will shall be done. So wait a minute. Then if this is the case, when I take on such a work, then I understand who's in control. I know then that really Christ is the chief shepherd. So then I know I'm basically working for him. So then we can keep this attitude. These are not my sheep, but these are his sheep. These belong to Christ. So then all Christ needs to do, all Christ is asking me to do is work with them. So when they're out of control, I can bring it to the chief shepherd's attention so that he knows this is why I'm having problems with this sheep. Then Christ does what? Christ removes them, if need to be, out of the fold because they're no good. Or, watch this, does he really remove or does he discipline them that are in the fold? He's got to discipline them. Because you said you wanted to be, you said that you were interested in salvation. You said you wanted to go to heaven. Then he says, then I've got to line you back up and get you back on track. So therefore, Mr. Shepherd, Mr. Elder, Mr. Deacon, you cannot lord over these people. They're not yours. I said it's an attitude that I have for years have had in my mind, and I've said, you know what? Remember, when they're out doing things that you don't necessarily care for, all you can do is bring it to their attention and then back off. Why? Now God will discipline them because you did bring it to their attention on their behavior of what they're doing and how it's unacceptable. Now it's up to that person to either respect you or they that challenge you and say, well, who are you? Heard of this statement? I'm grown. Heard of this statement? I'm grown. You don't tell me I do what I want to do. When, watch this, you're right, I don't tell you. I'm really asking you or trying to correct you or trying to get you to understand you're going about it the wrong way. Because what am I really saying is this, because Dad's going to get you. Dad is going to get you. I'm trying to get you straight before Dad get a hold to you. Because once Dad gets a hold to you, you're in some serious trouble. Once Dad gets a hold to you. But if we don't see it from those eyes, we see it, well, I'm grown. Carla, you don't tell me how to do stuff. Failing to understand, no, I'm not telling you. I'm trying to bring it to your attention that you're going about it the wrong way. It can create conflict because that person does not want to bow down or understand it is best that I become a sheep again. Because watch this,
A sheep will not rebel, right?
Correct.
But a goat will.
That's true.
Stop and think about it. But a goat will. So if I am not acting like a sheep, then guess what I'm acting like?
No.
And then your Bible says he's going to separate the sheep from the goat. See what I'm saying? And he says, and I'm going to separate that. So you don't worry about it. You got a goat in the pack of sheep. And I'll have to work with them. And I will work with them. So I'll deal with them. So now watch this. Let's go on. He says, and then I just put down so that you see what filthy lucre means. I said the Greek says that no person has entered the ministry for base gain, right? Watch this. I was going to fly past this, but I thought about it. I says, no person should ever enter the ministry. Listen to this. Listen to this. Down below.
Bottom of page. They're there.
You got it? Big.
Bottom of page 2.
Okay.
You got it? No person.
The Greek says that no person is to enter the ministry for filthy lucre, that is, for base gain, or for some soiled and dirty advantage. No person should ever enter the ministry as a profession, as a means of livelihood, as a means to serve mankind, because people say he has the gifts for it, because people say he would make a good minister, or because family and friends encourage him to enter the ministry.
So then I'm lost. I just said all the things that somebody would be a part of. What? Professional, livelihood, what is it, to serve as mankind, got a gift. Somebody said you make a great minister. Someone encouraged you to enter into it. So then, shoot, how do you know then that minister, that he's a minister? How do you know? Keep reading.
All of these reasons usually surround a person's entrance into the ministry, but they must never be the reasons why a person enters the ministry and cares for God's people.
So all of these thoughts that I've just mentioned, they're good reasons for why that person should be going to the ministry. Because you have the ability to watch this, to speak the gospel. You have the knowledge of what you're talking about. So these are good. So I want to encourage you. There's nothing wrong with it. But that person should not be hung up because of what someone else has said. That person comes into the ministry because
They want to.
because they've
desire.
been what? Because they've been called. There's a difference. Because they've been called, yes.
I was saying, everybody hasn't been called.
You got it.
And the book say if the person has the desire,
Oh,
if I have the desire, I'm going to already be doing it, whether I have a title or not.
that's right.
The book said these people were addicted to the ministry of the saints.
Come on. Come
And then
on.
it said they were for the perfecting and for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, till we all come to the unity of the faith. So
So,
they're not going to rest until they have did what Jesus commanded them to do.
so you're saying they within themselves, there's no peace within themselves until they take on the responsibility that they've been called to
Yeah.
do.
Amen.
So then the question is, when you came to Christ as saints, have you met your calling? That's what it comes down to. Have you met your calling? Because you were called out of darkness. You were called, and you were called for God's glorification. Ephesians 1 on down. You were called for that particular reason. Have you met your calling? Are you still searching for what you have been called for? Because if that's the question, then it also reflects the immaturity of who you are. Because you should after you've been in the church for a little bit, and be able to identify your ministry.
Yeah.
And you should be searching. You should be wanting to do what you've been called to do. No one should be able to tell you what your calling is. You should already know what your calling is. Now, are you resisting it? That's a different ballgame. But you still know what you've been called for, and now it's a matter of you letting go and letting God operate in you so that you may meet the calling. Our concern is this: what we see as being called, we say they're either teaching, preaching, or singing. I'm serious, that's what we call a calling. I'm sorry, in the church, that's what we call a calling. But we don't.
That's what's recognized for.
Right. Oh, we call it a calling. No, we call it a calling. That's
That's
basically.
what we recognize,
Oh.
those things.
Oh, yeah, right.
As a calling, like, I spoke at a funeral. Was you called?
Okay.
Look, man, I'm just speaking at a funeral.
Okay.
I'm just talking about my Aunt Gerb, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It must sound good to them. They got an idea, they thinking that you called to preach or something.
So they encourage you is what
I
they're doing.
don't know, it just kind of throws me off. Have you been called?
Okay. And so, and it may be, but watch this, here's the point. Then let's start talking about other arenas of being called. What would be other arenas of being called? God simply called the three, that's it. Stop and think about it. What would be the calling? What is your calling? Did you know some people have the ability to go out and evangelize and bring folks in left and right? Did you know that's a calling? Did you know someone has the ability to walk up to someone and greet them with such a warm feeling that they feel so good about themselves? Did you know that's a calling? Did you hear me? But all I did was pass out one of the brochures and, and said a little something to them. But that's a calling. But you don't understand. Well, what you don't understand is your 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, where he mentions the idea of what? We're one body, but we have many,
Members.
right, or many parts, right? That's what he talks about. And remember, their desire was to take on a calling of something that wasn't given to them. Remember, their desire was to speak in tongues. Remember? They were desiring to speak in tongues, but how are you going to remove the gift of knowledge? Why is that such a lightweight gift? See what I'm saying? And if we go through these the gifts that they had, prophesizing, how are you going to tamper with them? How are you going to say those gifts are bad? But somebody said, somebody directed, somebody said the best gift that God can give is the one when you can talk to God. So speak in tongues. And you know, just like I know, for years, a lot of your churches were, if you couldn't speak in tongues and you have not received the Holy Spirit. Remember that? You didn't receive the Holy Spirit. So that was what they used to back up what that's why I can speak in tongues. Remember that same thought I heard Brother Garrett say at one time, and that's where that indecent and in order came in, because they were out of control.
Yep.
They wanted somebody, but look, I can do this. And somebody said, but I can do this. And Paul had to bring it to their attention. We need some decency and some order in the church. Stop this. And so Paul had to relate to it. It does not pertain to clothing. A lot of times we miss that. Well, he wants us to be indecent and in order. So what they got to do with clothing? Okay? But a lot of times I used to hear it all the time. When that's not what he was talking about. He was talking about a spiritual gift that was given to everyone or to each one in that church. And they were misusing it. That's what he was talking about when he speaks of indecent and in order. So now we've got, back to our text, we've got something going on. We've got the idea of a ministry something that God has given you. Are you using it? Have you been called? Recognize, I've also heard or seen brothers that say, I can do everything in the church. I'm not interested in that you can do everything in the church. I'm interested in what is your calling. What can you do in the church that is a calling? Why? Because I said to myself, when I came along too, I can do everything in the church. But what is your calling? What is it that you can key in on? Ever been around when you were growing up, you could do a lot of things in the athletic world? I don't know, for some of you all, I don't know how to relate to women, whatever it was that ladies did, and you could do pretty much all of it. But what was it that you were gifted in? Could you sew great? Could you cook good? Could you clean up well? Well, you know what I'm saying? What was it that you could do that was good? But I can do all of them, but there's something that you could do very good in. Yes.
When you said the word gift,
Yeah.
or gifted, something that has been given to you by God,
Yes. Right.
that if you don't have to practice it,
That's it.
it's just come natural.
That's it.
You know, a lot of people have the gift of gab and the gift of talking.
You got it.
Love to talk,
Talk to the wall.
you know.
That's how good they are.
Yeah,
Talk to the wall.
a gift is something that's been given to you.
You got it.
That you don't have to work for it to do.
You got it.
It's
And
It's kind of talent.
you got it. And what does God do? God says, I just want to hone it. I just want to turn around and put it where I can put it where I want it to be. I am so glad that you talk a lot. Now, if I can put some knowledge behind that talk, you'd be excellent. You see what I'm saying? So what do? God says, now I'm going to give you a gift. See, this, you run off at the mouth is one thing, but it's an empty wheelbarrow. It just keeps making a lot of noise. So what I'm going to do is, now I will put some knowledge with it, so no longer is that wheelbarrow empty, but it has beautiful words that are very encouraging to others. So that's like you said, a gift. I don't have to go work on it. It's something that God has given to me. So then here's the question. And this is where I would challenge any minister on. If that's the question, then why do you work hard to be a minister? Then why are you working so hard to be a song leader? And why are you working so hard to be a teacher? Well, he told us to study. I'm not saying that.
There's a difference.
Right. I'm saying, why are you working so hard at it? When I was playing ball, it was natural. I could walk away from the game, leave it alone for a long time, come back out there with the guys and start to play. And they say, well, you know what, you kind of rusty. Give me a minute. Just give me a minute. And then all of a sudden heat up and you can't stop it. I'll never forget this. A friend of mine used to say, and this is when my other career is gone. But I would come out there to play, and guess what? I'd shoot one or two and miss it. And he said, and he would tell whoever it was that was coming, man, don't give him no slack. Stay on him. Stay hard on him. He said he laughs with you. He'll laugh and joke with you. All he's doing is trying to heat up. Y'all know what I'm talking about. All he's trying to do is find his rhythm. Once he finds his rhythm, we in trouble. Yeah, and then you can't stop because it's going. So watch this. This is what I'm talking about when we speak of a gift. You've got a gift. Now what are you going to do? It's natural. It may take a minute or two to crank it up, but it is natural.
Right.
It's something that they can do. Just they hadn't used it for some time, but they can do it. Just get out of their way and watch them crank it up and go. Yes.
It's just like a boxer, he'll feel his, like you say, the feeling out round.
Yes.
Measuring you and everything.
Yes.
Once they get that feeling, it's on then.
Yeah.
You got it.
God has given us some gifts anyway when we came into Christ, didn't he?
That's it.
Those gifts is right up there.
You got it.
We all got gifts.
I told someone in this room, you have a gift. And if you continue to keep messing around, he's gonna take it. But you do have a gift. Why aren't you using the gift? Why are you allowing really Satan to stifle your gift? Because he's going to give you every justifiable reason why you don't use it. He'll plant it in your head. I'd like to be there, but you don't understand. I was going to come, but I noticed the time. And you know what? And I know I don't like being late. Well, if that one works, then use it. You know what I'm saying? I was coming, but on my way I knew I was hungry, and I stopped off to eat, and then I says, you know, I really don't feel like it. Justify. I'm going to come up with every justifiable reason. Remember, it's about perception. If you believe that what you're doing is right, then you do it. Then you'll keep doing it until it's brought to your attention. Well, God brings it to our attention because He's the chief shepherd. He brings it to our attention, the gift that He's given us, and now He wants you to use it for His kingdom's sake. And why aren't you using it for His kingdom's sake? And we can come up with every reason as to why what's going on in our lives. Like I said, the only problem with that is I am not your salvation. I can't take you to heaven and I can't send you to hell. Mm-hmm. So you can give me every reason why you are what you do. The bottom line is you got to answer to God when this is all said and done. So now watch this, guys. Why did I say that? Because what does God want to give you? Look at your text. What does God want to give you?
The fading crown of glory.
In verse 4, He wants to do what?
Give you the fading crown of glory.
He wants to give you a crown. Not just a crown, but you said a what?
Unfading.
So watch this. It's something that will never tarnish. So wait a minute. So I did all this just to get a crown? Come on now. I'm just literally looking at the text. So then I did all this so I could get a crown. Ever been in some kind of, I know when I was playing ball in my high school, I'm getting all kinds of trophies, letters, leather jacket, blankets, whatever. You know what I'm saying? As the year progresses, as you progress, you were getting all these things. Now, someone asked me where any of them are. They're all gone. Every last one of them have faded. You come into my home expecting to see something, and you see nothing. Where are your basketball trophies? What do you call them?
Paraphernalia.
Yeah, where are they? I want to see them. Where is your picture? How did you look in your purple and gold shorts? You know what I'm saying? What was your jersey number? Come on, all of these things come in. How did you look? Afro? How did you look?
Newspaper clippings?
Like you said, newspaper, there's another. Where are all these things? All gone. But I came because I really wanted to confirm that you did play. Where are they? They mean nothing. Because why? They're faded glory. That's what they are. It's faded glory. They're past tense. They mean nothing because I found something that's unfading. I found something much better than these accolades of the world. Now I have an accolade that I'm trying my best to get, that I know will always remain when I get there.
Right.
Big difference. I don't ever have to worry about putting it away because it starts tarnishing. I don't have to worry about it because the moths, because that's what happened to my jacket. Because the moths ate it up. Think about it. Your little letter, what happened? The moths got it. You know what I'm saying? What happened to your trophies? They rusted. But they weren't. But did you keep them in the house all the time? Well, how did they rust? They will. So what are you saying? He speaks of, don't you want an unfading crown? Don't you want something that you can hold on to for, watch this, eternally. Not just for this world, but eternally. He says, so I've got a glory for you. It's eternal. It awaits you. But you got to get there. How do I get there? Watch what I want you to see something. Get back into, watch this, 4. He says, and when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive an unfading crown of glory. Now I want you to see something else. He's talking about those that are going to be elders or deacons or ministers, right? Did you know that there are levels of heaven? Levels of rewards. I'll try that. Did you know that there are levels of reward? Don't you understand what you have done down here? Somebody else just, you know what, I finally got somebody to come to church. But you've been bringing in 20, 30 people in the church. Did you hear me? You've been bringing them in by the buckets. They don't all stay, but you have been bringing them in by the buckets. And then this one person, now watch this. That person does receive a reward. So that person does go to heaven as well. But this ideal of an unfading crown is the ideal of what he's talking about, how you will rule. You will be able to rule. Wait a minute, what do you mean? He's given you a great responsibility. Now you're getting a greater responsibility. Now you're getting something. You're going to be really rewarded for what you've done. I've said great benefits when you get to heaven. For those that are now doing, have you ever been in a job where they say because you've excelled higher than someone else, they've given you something? Well, God is saying because you've excelled more than that same Christian, they're still a saint. Don't remove that. They're still a saint. But because you have excelled, what do you mean? In this case, that elder, that minister, hear me, that deacon, because you took on such a great and grave work, because you took this on, because guess what? Not everybody's going to like you. Some are going to think that, who are you? Some won't even say something about you. But God says, you continue to do my will. And I've got a reward for you. You will receive it. So that unfading crown in this text, as he's talking about you being able to rule. You're going to be able, why would he need to rule when Christ is ruling? When you get to heaven, talk to him. He's got it all set up where everything will work exactly according to his will. After all, I heard him say that there would be a new heaven and a new earth. And what are you talking about? He's not talking about his home. He's talking about how the universe that we have is a heaven. The clouds that we have is a heaven. He's saying, guess what? This will happen again. I'm going to make this again, and this time I'm going to put only my people in it. And you will rule. You will be able you'll be the one that they will respect. And there'll be no jealousy behind it. There'll be no envy behind it. So it's a beautiful thought if you look at it. He says, watch this. In 5, he says what? Porch?
Young men in the same way will be submissive to those who are older. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, because God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble.
What then is he talking about?
In the same manner. Likewise, in the same manner.
Right.
You're younger. Submit and you give over to
So,
elders.
all right? So then watch this. If this is the case, then watch he says, and I pull this, the word all means each one of us. All ages, sexes, classes, no person is exempt. All of us are subject ourselves to all believers, no matter who we may be. Male, female, poor, rich, young, old. Isn't this amazing? Isn't this interesting? Because what has just taken place? What has just taken place in our world? You just got a rich president. Don't you understand? The rich doesn't see the poor.
Right.
The rich sees the rich. Okay? So it's amazing even in this text how he is telling you that you need to just humble yourself. You don't have, I said it's funny, I was hearing, and I remember hearing Steve Harvey, and I could hear him before the election and how he was so adamant about how he wanted Hillary to win. And then, now that she's lost, now I hear we need to just pray.
Yeah.
Hear me? We need to just pray. As far as I'm concerned, why didn't you say we need to pray that Hillary goes into office? You didn't say that. You were just too busy debating on what the wrong Donald was doing. And so now that she's no longer a part of the coming into office, now you're saying to everybody we need to pray. But, and I said this to the class earlier in the morning, here's our concern. You are so focused on the Hillary and Trump situation that some of it shook your mind. Some of it you're out there burning places up, and you're talking about no, he won't be my president. When I told them go over to and I told them when you read back in Peter, I says 13, you're going to find out that he says we are to obey the laws of the land.
Yes, sir.
Right. So wait a minute. Then what are you saying? It's not a matter of who comes into office. Because, like I told the class, because he wouldn't have gotten into office if we had been doing what we were supposed to be doing in the first place. Because if the saints had been out and about teaching folks and bringing them to Christ, do you understand what that removes? It would remove some prejudice. Because then they'd have understood that the God they serve is not black, not white. He's a God that says, well, my kingdom is available for all. But we were so caught up, or have been so caught up in the things of this world. Maybe God is finally sending a message to us to get us to understand. I tried, I sent my men servants to try to get you where you should be focused in. But you didn't do that. And so now I sent this one to come into presidency. I sent him. Oh, wait a minute, but we don't want to go. Surely, Lord, if you sent him, then there will be no persecution. I hate to tell you this, but he destroyed Jerusalem and sent them through persecution because they rebelled. Because they rebelled, because they would not do what he's caused of them to do. Oh, I can hear those in Jerusalem saying it was a great earthquake that destroyed this place. Fellow, I understand, no, it's God. God said that, watch this, not one stone will be upon the other. He made that statement in Matthew, the 24th chapter. Well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? That was a prediction that Jerusalem would come to an end. Why would Jerusalem come to an end when you were the one that built Jerusalem? Give you one even deeper than that. We are in the last days. If we're in the last days, do you know what that really means? That means we were grafted into God. We were grafted in. We were God's chosen people. No, we weren't. We are Gentiles. We were grafted in. Before this thing comes to an end, he's going to remove us, and he's going to graft Jerusalem or Israel back into him. I don't know about that. Then you need to read Romans the 9th chapter. It's there. What are you talking about? So you're trying to tell me for the end of the world to take its course? Then you're trying to say that's why we don't have to worry about it coming to an end yet, because he hasn't grafted in the Jews back? Yes, that's what he's going to do. He's going to put the Jews back where they started from. He's going to, in so many words, have enough of the Gentiles that he's met his quota for the Gentiles. And now he's going to go back to the Jews and bring them in. Guys, we better be careful. We are in the last days. And anytime we don't do what God has called us to do, I don't know why we believe we are so special that it won't happen to us. I made another statement to the class. I said, when we start to talk about it, go back and look at the history of society. The great Babylonian, she failed. But she was big, guys. She was number one. Then there was the Persians. They were big. And then they failed. Then there were the Medes that were big, and then they failed. And then there was the Roman world. That was the biggest one of them all, and it failed. Well, who do you think is left? That's us. And why would we think that God is not going to also destroy? Don't you understand? God can destroy even the United States and bring someone else to rule and send us through persecution before he restores it again. Why? Because we aren't about our calling. The calling was that we are to go out to a dying and sin-sick world, but we too have become worldly, obligated to whatever is going on in our lives. That's what I mean by worldly. We have been obligated to whatever it is. I would like to come, but my job. I would like to come, but the children. I would like to come, and Luke 10 certainly clarified that clear as a bell. He says that you needed to hate. And all he was saying is you needed to love less. God becomes number one. And if anybody's world, it should be we that are Christians, where God should be number one in our lives. Anyone. It should be us. But what are we doing? We too are wondering what's going to happen now that Trump has gotten into office. Let me drop this one too on you. A lot of times people don't get it. It's called a political party. Let me run that by you again. It's called a political party. You don't dare want to think like this, but you better wake up. Did you know this could have also been set up so that Trump wins? It's called a political party. By the way, Hillary is not a poor person.
No.
Hillary is also a rich person. We miss this. Don't you understand? We can all converse on how we're going to do this. And guess what? It is called politics. So I can certainly go before the screen like I'm crying up a storm, when really what I'm doing is counting my coins. We don't know. Someone say this, and then I'm going to get off this song. Everybody's talking about how evil Donald was, but there was 133 emails that you don't know anything about. Donald Trump was transparent. Let me run this by you again. He was transparent. You knew exactly what was going on in him. You said he ain't worth a quarter. He's a male chauvinist. Watch this. He wants to treat women like... He exposed himself. Whether you know it or not, what do you think people wanted? They wanted someone that would expose themselves. Hillary didn't. She hid some things. And it cost. But yes.
I was just going to share with the class that there is this amazing documentary out called The 13th Amendment that's on Netflix. And basically, it tells everyone who watches it a lot about the Clintons. And
You heard it, say I've heard about it too. Go ahead.
there is something that's called the three-strike law. And Bill Clinton actually signed it into office.
Sure did.
And put
Sure
a
did.
lot of
Sure did.
African-American
Sure did.
men in jail starting
Sure
at the
did.
age of 8
Yes, you
for
did.
minor offenses, and they've been in jail for 40, 45, 50
You got
years.
it.
And he signed that into office
Sure did.
when his wife would go and say that we were criminals. So, you know, they had dirt on their hands just like
You got
everybody else
You
does.
got
And it's
it.
just really, really sad,
You
but
got it.
the people have spoken.
You got it. And so we would say, who would choose the lesser evil? The bottom line is, someone would say, I'm an independent. So it really doesn't matter to me who comes in. So that's somebody that doesn't vote. Hear me? Then you got the others say, well, you know, she's a shoo-in. So guess what? They don't vote. Her loss was behind those that didn't vote. It wasn't behind those that did. We missed that one. But that's really what took place. That's why I said we're talking about dirt. So we're talking about trying to figure out, but we wanted Hillary. Better wake up. It was still dirt. Either way we look at it. Now what do? Now we talk about we better pray. You should have been praying. It should have been something that you were always doing. You should never rely on the world for your destination. Your world, watch this, you should have been relying on Christ for your destination. But you got caught up in it. We all guilty. You got caught up in the world too. And now you're hoping that Hillary comes in to do what? She wasn't going to do no more because, believe me, he can't do no more than what the Congress allows him. Yes.
You ever heard the term pick your poison?
Yes.
You know,
That's it.
that's the bottom line. You have to pick your poison, which one you want to swallow.
That's it.
You know, and go do the most damage.
That's right.
You know, it's like picking something that, you know, you're not sure of, but one will work without the other.
Right.
One will work with the other, but it still has the same effect.
By the way, let me say this. Donald Trump wanted the email to be exposed was because he believed that Hillary gave away some of nuclear warfare to another country. that you'll never know anything about. That you'll never know anything about. So what do you do? So what do? You say, don't reveal anything.
That's the Haitians about it.
There you go. I'll work with you. We can all work this out. So, Mr. FBI, you really work for me. Crush it. Don't you dare say anything. But we don't get it. We think, well, you know, I just don't understand. You're right, because this is bigger than you can. Satan has been in this world for a long time. He's been busy. All you need to do is get the leader. They tell me you get the head and you can kill the body. Stop and think about it. So he's been here for a long time, guys. But I thought I'd throw that at you because now watch this. Your scripture said this. Your scripture said this where Portia read. It says in the latter part, it says, clothe yourself with humility towards one another. For God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to what? To the humble. Your text says, scripture says that we must also be clothed with humility. The phrase be clothed means to girdle oneself with an apron. It is a picture of what Jesus did in the upper room when he girdled himself with an apron and assumed the role of a servant and washed the feet of the disciples. Once again, the word humility means to offer oneself as lowering and submissive, to walk in a spirit of lowliness, to present oneself as lowly, to act as of a low degree and low rank. It is the opposite of being high-minded, above, better than others, prideful, arrogant, superior, haughty, and self-exerting. The believer may have a high position, power, wealth, fame, and much more. But he is to carry himself in a spirit of lowliness and submission. He is to deny himself for the sake of Christ and in order to help others. Guys, so when we clothe ourselves, watch this. Why are we subject to one another and to clothe ourselves with humility? Because God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. And I gave you scriptures where that came from, Proverbs 3:34. God resists the proud. He stands against all. Those who look down upon one another, those who feel superior to others, those who discriminate against one another, those who are prejudiced, those who are boastful, and those who are haughty. So what are you saying? Guys, I want you to see. The word resist is a strong word. It is a picture of an army being set in array against the enemy. God gives grace to the humble. Have you seen it too many times in the scriptures where they are supposed to lose the battle because they don't have enough men to fight the battle, but yet they win the battle? How did you win the battle? Because you were humble. Abraham had to go rescue Lot. Remember that? And so watch this. What he was walking into, Abraham didn't take but how many men? 300 is what he took with him. How do you fight thousands of men? Well, you fight thousands of men because you got God who says you will win. So what in the world? Here you are, or here we are now believing that we're once again in a battle for our lives. How do you fight what we have, who has, watch this, who has done nothing yet? How do we, so why do you call him your enemy? But he's already called your enemy. But why do you call him your enemy? Because talk is cheap. As a politician, he politically talked and said of transparency that you said no way and not this and not that. But his transparency was exposed and it became a plus instead of a minus. At least he's transparent. We know what we're getting with him coming in. With Hillary, we don't know what we're getting, where she's piggybacking off of Obama. And so, wait a minute, what's going to happen here? Well, we know the Obamacare will go in to keep going. But when Trump gets here, it's going to stop. How do you know it's going to stop? That's a Congress decision. One more time, let me run it by you again. That's a Congress decision. It's not a president. Because every time the president say, shut it down, the Congress says, no. We got a battle. You saw it with Obama too many times when they would shut down and have to come back the next week because they're battling. We've got one better than Congress. We got God.
Amen. That's it.
Jimmy, you got God. And if God says, all God says is, I don't know, I think God said something and I heard him say something. As a matter of fact, I was told that he can't touch the saints today unless we allow him. He can come down to tempt, but we still have the strength to even tell him to flee, to leave us. We have that ability to do it. So what is the fear when you have God on your side? God will always provide and protect his people. Our issue is we walk by
That's right.
and not by faith. When we learn to walk by faith, God will protect us. Even every time someone went against God's people, something happened. Even there was a lady in the book of Job that told Job, why don't you curse your God and die? But what happened to her? She died. Isn't that something? What are you talking about? God always protects. And your Bible in Job clearly helps us understand that he has a hedge around us. He is going to protect us. As a matter of fact, remember, Satan had to get permission. If you were to just remove that protection shield around Job, I'll get him to curse you to your face. But you see what I'm saying? Be careful. Don't get caught up on singing the blues about what has taken place. But be about the business of God. It gives us an opportunity, a great opportunity to talk to somebody about Christ right now. A great opportunity, because they're down and out. They have the spirit factor running in their hearts. And you can say, but you don't understand. Do you know anything about Jesus? Did you hear me? Do you know anything about him? Because if you know anything about him, God was the one that created everything. You got a man that says, I don't know anything about the Bible, but I do know about 2 Corinthians. Stop and think about it. Stop and think about it. Okay? Stop and think about it. You know what's going on. Yes.
I just wanted to look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 1 through verse 1 and 2. When Jesus Christ, he taught the disciples, he gave them directions on where to go. And what he did, he was the example. When he said in Matthew 5, verse 1, seeing the multitudes, he went up into the mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying. So, it's a teachable moment for everyone.
Yes.
And when he tells us to go teach, that's an opportunity. In Matthew 28, 19, and 20.
That's right.
Go teach. That's our gift.
That's right.
Is to go teach
That's right.
all nations.
That's right.
And that's an opportunity for all men to do that for us as Christians. Now, if we're teaching all men like Christ wants us to command us to do, then we wouldn't have so many problems because it starts with us. We have to teach, not them who don't know the truth.
So, guys, watch this too. Look at your, before I close. He makes a statement in 6. He says what?
Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may...
Therefore, humble yourself under the what?
Mighty hands of God.
Did you hear what he said? He didn't say the hands of God. He says the mighty hands of God. Watch this. What are you talking about? The church was under persecution. They were in fear of those that were ruling. Did you hear me? I told you it's amazing how this fits right now. But they were in fear of those that were ruling. And what does Peter do? I want to remind you. They have hands. But the one that you serve has a mighty hand. Did you hear me? The one that you serve, so watch this. Remain humble in the Lord, because he's the one that will protect you. But he only protects those that are humble. The proud, he's not interested in. Only those who will lower themselves. And the only way you lower yourself is when you go about the business that God has called us to do. And every last one of us, you just said it. He's called us to go out and tell the world about him. We're in this trouble now because we forgot the Great Commission. But if we as Christians had come together and been about the Great Commission in the first place, don't you understand it's ignorance that these people have brought that man in on? You don't get it. No, it's stupidity. No, it's ignorance, not knowing. Because if they'd have known more about Christ, then they'd have recognized the works of Satan. Then they'd have recognized it. But you can't recognize the work of Satan because you're blinded with his devices. And when, by the time you come to your senses and realize it, or uncover these devices that were holding you back, you say, oh my God, I've made a mistake. And it's too late to turn it around. That's another great opportunity for us to go out and reach people. Instead of moaning about what has happened, cheer up, count it all joy, and do what God has called us to do. Be responsible Christians as Peter brought it to our attention, the works of what a minister, the works of what an elder is to do. They are to be responsible. They are to be accountable. They are to be about the work that God called them to do. And anytime they sidetrack and go and start to mess with the world, you come up short.
Yep.
Every time. Are there any questions?